In fact, I have a point 0.5 here, a point 0.5 lot here, right? But I wish to add more, but man, I don't know. If I'm to add more, it's supposed to come in here while I just watch this low. But let's look at, a couple of things. Let's look at the dollar. There are a couple of things I wanted to talk about here. The fact that we don't have NFP again on Friday, right? And even though this week is supposed to be less volatile based on the things that happened last week, we can now expect, some type of trades, right? For the dollar, I have talked about some of my expectations, which is I want to see price return back into these levels, this low particularly, and here. Now, I would have hoped for a a deeper level, right? But this is also a breaker, and based on what I started to see yesterday, breaking market structure and all of that, if we go to the 15 minutes, we start to see that I started to consider buy side, right? So let's see. Let me show you what I'm looking at. To be honest, price action is not so interesting. It's been boring this week. Well, I kind of like anticipated that. Right. But again, so we go into the higher time frame level. If we're thinking about, how to get in sync with higher time frame levels, one of the things we consider is where is the key level? Have we gotten to the key level? Then after we get to the key level, are we seeing signs of what bearish or what's that directional bias is saying? So if we're expecting sell side, I want to start to see old lows get taken out as I come into the 15 minutes time frame. It's 15 minutes time frame should be one of your favorite time frames because it merges higher time frame with lower time frame. So if you're looking for a place to kind of trust your ranges or some of your levels, it's the 15 minutes time frame. Like so, this is where I stop before I go lower. I need to have a directional bias here before I start to go into the lower time frames. All right. So price breaks old lows and look at that low. So I was looking at this as if I'm going to see continuation on Tuesday to see a much more higher premium to start to see sales, I want to see down close candles, especially after a breaking market structure, ramp price higher. All right. But as you see here, goes higher, but fails. Right. And does it just fail, start to close below this low, and we're starting to see this. So this was my bias going into yesterday. Since we already start to have distribution here and consolidation, what would be a good play would be a little bit of manipulation and then a sell-off. That's what I have, right? But if you look at this is really still just dancing in the lines, right? But this is what I have, and that's why I have that trade on G, right? And like I said, if anything is going to happen, it has to start to happen, from down here, from these order blocks, right? But for this, I have my stop loss somewhere around, where is it again? Why is it not showing? I hope you guys can hear me. I have my stop loss, yeah, somewhere around here, right? So all of these order blocks, if we lose this, then I'm wrong, right? I'm wrong. I'm just going to take my L and just go out. For for gold, right? I think that one is quite straightforward, right? And another thing I wanted to say, if you trade gold, you need to be aware. You need to be aware that we now have high margin calls. I don't know if you have experienced it. Even if you trade the lower time frame, or even if you trade smaller lots, you should have noticed that buying and selling right now have higher margins, right? What do I mean? Right? What is supposed to be $10 per peep is now $20 per peep, right? And it happens when, the whole lot of people rush into an asset class to start to trade it because, there's some gains involved, right? And if you don't know, you think you're still trading your normal gold with, maybe $50 risk. And at the end of the day, you find yourself losing $150, right? So it is what brokers do to kind of, get money in this season or in periods like this. They increase the margins for asset classes that have a whole lot more people rushing into, and I don't think there's a lie now that gold and silver have now become the gambling game or the sports to be gambled on. So you need to be very careful on this trade. I have a point 0.1, right, and it is currently sitting at $700. I just picked out a 0.06 away from it. So I just have 0.04 going out. All right. Now, I would normally have a 0.5, but that would mean that I'm looking to lose almost $400. This little thing is $400 on the 0.5. So it's very, very, it's something to think about if you trade that asset class or this asset class. Right. This trade was, quite a simple one based on the work that I have done recently, which I'm just going to show you. I think we'll look at that before we come back to GU again, and maybe we can call this a day from that. Right. But it's quite a simple one. Why? Again, if you are thinking about getting into a trade, one of the things to consider is how does the directional bias that I want to see price get into, how am I seeing some respect even before I get into that directional bias? So it's kind of like anticipatory, right? You are thinking about, okay, I'm going to see something that actually follows this bias happen before I then get in, right? And many times you think about breaking market structure. I consider everything in whole, right? So if we look at this, we had down close candle that sent price higher, right? Breaks market structure. That means this is a valid order block, right? I try to find valid order blocks, and it makes sense because even if they don't work for buy side, right, they now give you perspective on sell side. We already have trade ideation here saying price has taken out buy side. So there's a pair of sell orders and pending buy stops. Look at this. Very, very bullish Asia session, right? Tells you that more than normal, we're going to have a lot more, sell stops resting below all of these lows here, right? And now we pick out, we pair up those sell orders with pending buy stops, and that's market maker. That's markets making basically in itself, right? So since I see this, what I want to expect from is if in the last 3 days there's nothing I can attach to, I like to see an order block probably in the last 3 days or last 2 days, whatever, right? If I can't attach that, the second best thing to do is a breaking market structure, right? So comes inside of that OB. I like when the OB gets respected first and then fails. It always makes sense there, right? One of my guys taught me how to how to use the how to what would I call it? Put out the 50% point of all of this. What am I saying? I'm just skipping. Um, all of these rectangles, right? So you just come here. So I'm teaching you ASAP. Right. And I love it. And middle line. If you click on middle line, when you draw these boxes, you just see the line. I was so excited knowing that because in my 6 years of trading, I have never done that. So I usually draw it manually. Right. But again, back to it. We have breaking market structure. And now, why don't I want to see price come all the way up here? Because there's a breaker. And because there's an up close candle here, makes it easier. So all I was just doing was I was allowing more space for that fair value gap, and I waited. I saw all of this move, right? And saw price return back again to it and falls off, right? For this asset class, I think we can still be bullish. We are just priced in at a premium. That was why I was selling, right? I think we can still be bullish and we're just priced in at a premium. That's why I was selling. Maybe we still fall lower, but this is the point I'm looking at. So probably today might still be a bullish day. You don't want to doubt that. We're just getting into 4 p.m. So this time, this asset class can start to rally all the way higher back. It can be crazy like that, can have a dual day. So in terms of a trade idea, right, all I want to see is, can DXY hold this shot, right? To tell you the truth, I'm not so confident about the DXY right now. I'm not so confident. I feel like it's something I should just let go for today. I'm not so confident about what happens down here. So we've seen price expand and rally. Now it's going to make sense. Watch this now. Yeah, it's going to make sense if this high stays protected and we take out this low, right? Then this low is going to be a mitigation block. Now, let me show you what I've done in the past week in terms of study to just kind of give you like a perspective of how I run through or the kind of things that I do that kind of just puts me in a good place, right? So if you look at these screenshots that you have here, right? This screenshot is me back testing, or all of the screenshots that you're going to see is me back testing mitigation blocks, right? The other blocks that will work but fails, let me see if we can and get into it and actually just look at some of these things. Right. So if you look at this low, let me know if you can actually see my mouse. Let me see. Can somebody just let me see. Let me see in the chat box. Can you see my mouse when I open up the charts? Can you see my mouse in the chat box? Let me check that before we go. Somebody should just let me know so that we can go through that. Okay, you can see it. You can see it because this is very good. If you do it, you're going to it's going to stress you out. You're going to be tired, and I'll tell you how you're going to do it also. Right. So if you look at this, right, look at that OB, right? This is a bearish OB, but what I'm really looking at here is when this runs down here, it doesn't take out this low, and then there's a breaking market structure, right? And price returns back into that high. I'm buying that high and using that low that did not take out this low, right? So I just did this until I was exhausted until I was exhausted. Okay, this looks like the same thing. If you look at this, it's the same thing also. Day after day, right? I was doing this, right? So this is OB, right? But if you look at the high, it doesn't take out that high and breaks. If you watch, that was the same trade I just took today, right? Breaking market structure, I need to see, and price just returns. Right. So this is very practical. If you do this on the pair you want, I did this on NAS actually, right? And I was able to find, life in it, right? Something that just makes sense. So these things are concepts you already know, but sometimes you need a whole lot of practice to say, oh yeah, this actually, can really, really be something I watch out for, especially when you're doing short-term trading. So if you look at this, it runs all the way higher, but doesn't take out old highs, then breaks, right? Then that's mitigation block. It's crazy. It's kind of like I was getting into the mind frame of how would big players, after they've missed a move, how would they get in? And I just broke it down into the lower time frame. Right. So very, very important study to do. Right. Price rallies all the way higher. I'm looking for valid bearish order blocks here and fails. And you see, I'm just buying this. This is going to be easier because I don't need to put my stop loss all the way here. They're down close candles. And now, how do you want to do this? The way you want to do it is you go and pick that pair, go into October, right? Or go into anywhere, I couldn't even finish. I stopped at November something. It was a 2 hour, 30 minutes back test, right? And I couldn't finish, right? But it was very, very informational. You would see a whole lot, right? The result of that back testing is about 75%, 75% to 76%, right? But what you're going to see is when you going back to October, going back to September, whatever it's going to be, what you want to do is you use your replay tool, right? You use your replay tool and you kind of start to then watch, right? So for NAS, what I did was I just put the marker at 9:30, and when price gets to 9:30, then I start to watch for this thing. Okay, when did we fail another block? Where can I find this same pattern just repeats over and over? You don't need to do this with what I just showed you now. This is my own discovery. This could be you doing it with your own strategy, with your probably Asia high or Asia low, power of three, whatever. But what you're looking for is how can you get into those plays before the replay tool actually gives you. So it's kind of like you are trading, but you are not obviously, it has played out before. But if you go all the way back then, so you don't even know what's happening in current price action. So you can kind of just say, okay, what is happening back then? I really do not know because it's 3 months ago. I can't remember the price action, obviously. And then I cut it short in terms of replay and I start to play. You put your replay at a very slow, mode. That's why I said it will be boring, right? It's a very useful source. But you know what I've noticed about useful sources? People don't use them because it stresses them out, right? It's not easy to do. So I don't mind giving information like this out there because regardless of how publicized they are, right? Some people won't just do it, right? And that's okay, right? Because the people that get work done is people that do the boring stuff, that do the hard stuff, right? So I think that's very informational. If you do it, you'll find a whole lot of good stuff. And that's why things like this would always be paid for. That's why I'll keep getting paid for mentorships because some people won't just do the work until they pay for it, right? And maybe that's just how life is, right? Okay, let's get back to price. So like I said, this is really, really wonky. I'm really, really not liking how this is going, right? I switched decisions last night, right? Based off of seeing all of these lower highs coming through, and they are still in play, right? They're still in play, but I'm not still seeing any expansion that causes breaking market structure. I'm watching this range though, right? I think if we take out this high, I think this high is probably gone, but I would watch overall for this high. If we take out that high for this week, I'm just going to silence up on the
currencies, right? And that's why you see for this trade also GU, I have stops all the way down here, right? I have stops all the way down here. I have stops all the way down here. So what am I watching for, right? We've taken out Asia's low now. There's a pair of liquidity also down here. I would like to see this OB work out, right? I'll start to, get very, very somehow about this trade if this OB doesn't hold up, right? So yeah, these are the things I have. Let's look at, NAS. Been about testing the pair, but as I've not gotten any trade entry yet. So if you remember what we talked about on Monday, and honestly, you guys should really, really start to take opportunities, especially on the features or with the features, because I think they are technically much more smoother just based on the regulations that happen with your currencies. And don't box yourself and say, no, I'm not a futures trader. Oh, I used to do that earlier in my days. But what you are really, really here for is to be able to use your ideas, you're able to use the education that you have to make money. And the truth is, in some certain asset classes, your education doesn't work as much there, right? If you were trading NAS today instead of GU and you were trying to sell, you probably have been out of the market because one, it gives you good plays. Two, it makes you much more money, right? This is not to say go and rush and start to do this. So this is not me influencing you to go and do anything. I just have seen that this market, right? And it doesn't need to gold and silver are even right now overhyped, right? Very soon they'll soon stop talking about them, right? But we talked about this on Monday, and I told you that I would love, or this would be a good place to buy. So even though I want to see sell side on this, I would not be buying this, right? And I really thought they were going to continue this to take out these old highs. But what has happened, right? High, low, we got to premium of the range on Tuesday, OB, and we're falling off, right? So again, I did a video this morning saying I want to see how this thing comes to this low and this low, right? So yeah, and this pair opens up at 8:30, right? 8:30. Is it 8:30? 9:30, sorry. 9:30 EST. That's 3:30 our time. What that does to you is if you're somebody that you are used to jumping on trades, you are being impulsive, train yourself with a pair like this, right? Train yourself with a pair like this. It means that you don't even have any London session. If you know you have work to handle, if you have things to handle, and everything is just jamming at each other, it's a good pair to trade to because it keeps you in check with, okay, I can really just free up my morning and come back in the afternoon, sit down 2-3 hours, watch for a setup, the same things you're looking for. And if you want to help yourself better, do a back test on whatever you look for on your normal pairs and try and see if it works here. If it doesn't work, do yourself the service and say, you know what, I would stick to my E, I'll stick to my G. Like I said, this is not financial advice in any way. This is just me just saying what I think would help, right? And as you can see, this fell off yesterday, right? From here, right? And also today we have run above old highs, and at 7 o'clock, which is the start of New York session, start to see that drop, right? So we start to just pay attention to it a little bit more. You'd see that it's tradable. Every time I always want to touch the screen of this thing. I don't know what's wrong with me. That's that idea that I just talked about that I back tested. This is it. This is it right here. Right. So if I'm going to take this, it's going to be inside of here. I'll be selling. My stop loss is going to be all the way up here, and I'll see what happens. I'll see what happens with that. Since there's a breaking market structure and I'm expecting a lower low to still form on this, well, I'm expecting price to still go lower. This looks like a solid setup for me. This looks like a solid setup for me. So I'm going to be watching that. I'm going to really, really be watching that. All right. So, yeah. What else? What else? What else did I say I want to say? So again, think about the margins. If you trade gold, there's no NFP this Friday, so get yourself inside of the looks tomorrow, even Friday, right? Since we've had a boring start of the week, maybe the end of the week is going to really, really, be interesting. I'm talking about even with gold. Yesterday, Monday was very dead, right? So maybe we have something that looks good for Tuesday. Maybe we have something that looks good for Tuesday. Euro USD. Okay, let's look at Euro USD. Look at that. Just dancing all around. Just dancing all around. It really looks like sell side is plausible, right? Look at that. We have run on buy side and we have breaking market structure. Especially for this breaking market structure, price returns back into premium. Is this where you were selling, Benga?
Yeah, that's what I'm selling
I
from that
thought
breaker.
as your setup. It's a breaker. It's an OB. Looks good. It looks good. Yes, I'm buy side, right? And maybe price is just really returning back into discount here. For me, obviously, one of the things you need to do is when you have a buy side, you make cases for it, right? You're in a trade,
There's
you're
a
not in a trade.
divergence with
You try to
DXY.
see. What did you say?
So there's a divergence with EU and DXY. Asia's high.
Based on Asia's high, right?
Yeah.
Guess how much. Let me see. Let me see. Oh yeah.
Or
Let me-
Tuesday's high. You could say Tuesday's high. Or low.
Okay, so this is Asia's low is taken here. Oh, Tuesday's
No,
low.
Tuesday's low. Yeah.
Tuesday's
EU
low.
took out to Tuesday's high.
That's a bigger one there. That's a bigger divergence there. A daily divergence I love. Shit. Okay. Okay. So I really did not take note of that. But
And also on the daily time frame on DXY and EU, would you consider that a 3 Indian pattern? Check the daily time frame.
daily time frame. All right. Daily time frame DXY. 3 Indian pattern. Oh, on this lows, right? On this lows right
Yeah.
now. So let me give you an idea of what I see, especially with some fundamental study that I did yesterday. Right. If this thing is going to go higher, right? I only just have one level to watch for. Right. We break here and we use the same point as a point of reference going higher. Right. The reason for that is it's possible that we actually have a bullish DXY. And it's also based on like I think I've said this before, based on the new Fed chairman, right, is known to want to be, it's called dovish, want to keep the interest rates, at bay. So even if there's going to be cuts going into the end of the year, right, this guy is not willing to extremely cut rates like the US wants. And this is the reason why the dollar is still holding strong, meaning that investors did not pull out as soon as this guy got it reinstated into seats. Now that means that there's a possibility that price can go higher, but we still obviously need to check technicals and know what we're doing. So this is only going to be a 3 Indian patterns when we actually see
Sorry,
a proper break. Yes, I'm hearing you, man.
sorry to cut short. I thought being hawkish is when you aggressively increase
What
the
did you say?
rates. I thought when being hawkish on a particular asset class means that you are increasing the rates, and being dovish means you are reducing. Or am I
Yes.
mixing it up?
Yeah, no, you're not mixing it up. I think I mixed it up there. So hawkish
Oh,
means you are increasing rate. So when I mean dovish, it's not so dovish. That's what I'm meant to say. It's not so dovish, meaning that it's not so keen on cutting rates aggressively. Basically, that's the whole idea of this guy, right? Or Scott Bessant is a fan of this guy, which is the Fed secretary, right? And he loves the market, or he understands the market. It's been around for so long. So the whole idea is this guy could actually aim for a much more bullish dollar, right? A much more bullish dollar. What it does, right? I think the whole idea is what it does is the stock markets and all of these companies would suffer when we have good enough dollar, right? Dollar going higher, everything many times crashes, right? So that's what Trump is trying to avoid, in my view, because I think if the economy is good, if everybody is happy about investments that they are making in companies that are doing well, then the economy shouts good, even though it's crashing, meaning even though the dollar's price is going all the way into hell. Right. So this can actually turn into buy side. And that's why I'm really, really taking my time into it. But I'm watching technicals also so that I'm not just lost into fundamental ideas. I think I've talked about this before. When it comes to fundamentals, right, the information that you are seeing now could be information that is coming up for next 3 weeks, next month, next 2 months, right? Because all of these things take time, right? And it could also come in as soon as possible, like maybe Trump saying something in the news and boom, you see the market just reacts like that, right? But we need to take note of technicals. For technicals, we have this level, right? If you find a support guy or support and resistance guy, they'll tell you that this is a resistance level. And all they are just saying is, which actually makes sense when you think about it, is all
you're
they are
telling
saying
me.
is
Don't
at
tell me
these
like that. Telling me
levels,
to do.
Just tell him like the
Somebody is mixing us up here.
What's
At these
of it?
levels,
All as if maybe I just
let me mute you.
Hello, Chong.
Mute all. Yeah, mute all. All right. So, like I was saying, at these levels, right, we saw institutional action happening. That's what support and resistance is. If you are, an institutional trader and you're like, I feel jealous, I don't understand support and resistance, it's nothing serious. Think about places where, expansions happen in the marketplace, right? And look at those places as, right, redistribution levels, right? So again, they can be for buy side, for sell side, based on the levels that price is are willing to what do I call it? Are willing to respect at the moment. All right. So again, I'm already seeing things I don't like already on this asset class. We are going very close to yesterday's high. We're going very close to yesterday's high. Let me look at my chart again. Reset here. All right. Let's keep we're going back. So this was a good play in terms of buy side. All right. Breaking market structure return. So this low holds. All right, so I'm probably wrong on this, right? But my last line of reference will be this high, right? That will be there, right? That untapped will be. So we take out those equal highs or relative equal highs, and I want to see what happens as price gets here. If we bomb through this, I'm going to be out of this market, for the rest of the week. I'll just watch and see what they do until next week. Let me see what GU is doing at the time. Is he aggressively going lower? Very close to my stop loss now. Very close to my stop loss now. Right. But again, I'm just waiting on this lows, right? Let me see what this lows. My stop loss is even here. This lows. Right. So I'm just waiting. So as you can see, this OB doesn't hold, and nah. But let's see. Let's see how things go as we get into 10:30. What's time? We're at 10:30 now. Yeah, let's see what happens right now. What's gold doing then? Okay, gold just follows through with downside there. Gold just follows through with downside there. So there's an original consolidation somewhere inside of here. That one that happened on Tuesday. So probably we're gonna, and now we lost that OB. So this is sell side in its place here. Let's see. This is aggressively actually going lower. And what I have on this is just like 0.04. Let me see what it's doing. Bells, if you have a question, you can unmute, you can ask. If you have a contribution, that's also welcome here. We all learn here. Let me see. Why is my trading view not popping off? Margin calls are crazy. That 0.04 is at $660. I'm losing $93 on GBP USD. I have wow, this is really just going all the way lower. Just dying off. I'll take something more again when we take out this low. This is typical consolidation manipulation, drops all the way back to original consolidation.
What do you think of oil?
What do I think of
US oil?
US oil? Okay, I have actually been looking at that, but not in any mood to trade it. It's currently on my watch list, but I think that thing can skyrocket higher, right? Oil prices can become expensive because of what's happening in Iran. It's plausible. I was looking at something yesterday. Let me look at the charts. I probably have something on it that I was thinking about. But I think, this thing can continue to go higher. It's possible that we see that. But I'm not an oil trader, so I had some annotations on this. Where are they? Why do they look lost? 4 hour. Okay. So this was what I was thinking about. We saw price return back into down close candle inside of here, and if you look at how that has just the spiral of that. But when we were down here, I was really looking at this going all the way lower, right? I was thinking about breaking market structure, and we have a breaker. But that's exactly it. If it's going to be a breaker, it's also a valid order block. So if you are wrong, the order block is going to hold. It's a good setup because you kind of can wait until the close. The problem with it is some people just see the wick below those lows and think, oh yeah, it's already a breaker, let me sell now. Like you have to allow it close and return, right? So there's a waiting game that has to happen. So for this, we've seen fair value gap that leads into an expansion. That's why you must buy that OB. That's a valid OB there. All right. So, but if this is going to continue, we can see OB here, OB here. What do you do? Right? This down close candle should support price going higher. Or I don't think I would want to see another run below this low before it goes again. It can happen. Not like it can't happen, but I would like to see that OB if I was trading this, or if this US oil was GBP USD, maybe I would buy that. Right, but I'm not doing anything on this also because I'm just really just respecting my lanes, nothing much. Right. I think I've talked about how I look at markets. I kind of pay attention to them very, very well and kind of see, oh, okay, the things that I project on this, do they work? Right. And if they work, and then maybe I can start to look at them. Right. There's no market I can't trade. Right. But also you need to respect the distance. You need to respect the lane. This asset class, a very, very, I don't know why I chose it first. Well, I told you guys, it's just because of what the upside potential looks like. It looks good, especially when I was looking at. But in my view, it's very slow. It's very slow. Yes, to this high, and now it's consolidating again. So it's very slow. Long term. So I'm using trades like this to trade my long-term outlook on price. If I was trading this short term, I would blow my account. Right. And that's some understanding for you there, right? They are asset class that you are trading currently, that they are the reason why you're blowing your account, because you kind of mindsets that you have doesn't just follow the way they play. Doesn't just follow the way they play. That's why you will not see me trading EU. It's so fucking slow. And when you now finally see the expansion, it doesn't give you any money for real. Like you have to be trading heavy lots to get paid. GU comparison with EU is this ×2, right? If you trade EU and you see this movement on EU, it could be $100, and on GU it's $200. So why? I wouldn't do that. And that's why you see me trade things like gold also on NAS, right? Because the way they move is pertainable to the way I think as a human being, not even as a trader, right? And it's a patience skill, right? Exactly how are you patient with the things that you do in your real life? Right, as a trader, you need to have patience. Don't. Maybe that's why I've not made $1 million. I still need to work on my patience, and I don't try to deny it in any form. I know that I need to work on it, and the more I can work on it, right, the more I make money. Right, I called gold. I think some people here can testify to that. I called gold to $5,000 months and months ago. And I was doing some calculation. If I only kept 8.1 from when I called it up until $5,000, like let's say, I just put a risk that, I'm buying this as an investment, like, how you buy Bitcoin or Sol, right? I'm just buying this as an investment. That would be over $50,000, almost $50,000. Just that move from about 4.2 to like 5,000, 8.1. So you can tell that now you might have the knowledge of how to make money, but you only get a piece of the pie. So what does that mean? You get as much knowledge as you get so that your piece of the pie increases, right? Or you deal with the skills that is actually slowing you down. It's something that obviously you're doing that is slowing you down, and just sit down and think. Sometimes you don't need to backtest. Sometimes you don't need to do anything. All you need to do is sit down and say, you know what? This is the decision I'm making. Some of you, the decision you need to make is trading is not the thing that will pay me. That's what you just need to or trading is not going to pay me now. Maybe that's a better way to put it. And that might sound crazy, but the moment you frame it like that, like, you know what? This is a skill that it's not going to pay me now, right? I'm going to look for money somewhere else, but I'm going to do what it takes here. And what it takes here is patience. And that's why if you see it as the thing that pays you right now, especially when you've not gotten your acts together, you give it all of your money. So it is that, okay, what exactly do I need to do? It needs framing, and that framing already starts to show your P&L. If you send me your P&L and I can see 15 trades in one day, it will be hard for you to be profitable. I'm sorry. I've been down that path and it doesn't just work. All right. So it needs to be, okay, you take one trade today, it doesn't work. Maybe max, you take 2 trades. And yeah, okay, right, you go to the next day. It's a very hard thing because your ego won't let you rest, right? Because it's like, oh shit, I should have sold. And I saw that very short block. But the ability to go to sleep with that and say, tomorrow, I then look for another trade. Like tomorrow becomes a fresh day is something that needs to be learned. And I don't think people talk about it a whole lot, right? I don't think people talk about it a whole lot. That there is the idea that, you know, when you actually take a trade and it gets into a loss, regardless of how small or how big it is, there's a part of you that, especially the educated part of you, that kind of knows what price does, that wants to take another trade. And on a long run, it's not the best thing to do, right? And that's why maybe before you take that trade, think again, right? And obviously not think to the point where you hesitate, but think again in terms of, does this really fit? Does this really fit? And that's why what fits must start to align, right? Things like this. There's a fair value gap that's been tapped, breaking market structure, you buy the OB. That's good. That's good because it repeats. All right. All right. We have 1 minute left. Do we have any questions? Do we have any questions? I hope you got something from this. I hope you got something from this. Do you guys get something from this? Let me see in the chat box. Do you get something from this? Because that's really the most important thing. Probably not a trade, right? But something that just keeps you on the line. Something that just keeps you on the line. That's really my hope, right? I wish we can do this more. Probably every day. Probably every day. I don't mind. Probably every day. But guys, right, as we go, right, think about it that, you know, I am going to get that. If you're trading for prop firm accounts, don't think about anything else, right? I think I can show you, if I show you my my screen updates or my screensaver, it is the amount of money I want to make. It is the amount of money I want to make. That's what is on my screensaver. I don't think you should be looking at anything else. So if it's an evaluation phase, write it. Oh, okay, you're supposed to make, you know, 110,000. Just write 110,000 as your screensaver. Look at it, visualize it, see yourself getting that congratulations message, right? Just get into it and, you know, it's going to work out. Let's up.